So everybody knows this iconic scale. It's almost tailor-made for the guitar, really, but oftentimes just noodling around in that one box is the extent to which guitarists use this scale. So in today's lesson, I'm going to give you the ultimate guide to mastering the pentatonic scale so you can have a clear path forward to playing lines like the greats. Turning this into things like this. Let's get into it. This video is going to be in 3 parts. The first is Fretboard Mastery and how to play the scale across the neck. The second is idea generation and how to generate ideas with patterns and triads. And the third is Harmonic Application, dealing with how to use the pentatonic scale over different chords. Feel free to skip ahead via the chapters below. Okay, so the first step to mastering this scale is to get out of our box. If we are talking a minor pentatonic, for example, we have 5 notes, right? A, C, D, E, and G, which people usually play in this familiar box shape on the neck. But this only gives us a small piece of the neck, forcing you to make huge jumps when you try to connect the pentatonic sound to other ideas in your arsenal. So the solution is to find easier, more logical ways to move around the neck using this scale. And the first way to do it, super simple. It's just 1 octave shapes. Doing this instantly opens up the neck. And allows you to seamlessly connect the pentatonic sound to other ideas that you know and play. So for example, we could take this 1 octave shape for the pentatonic scale and link it to this 1 octave shape, playing something kind of like this. See right there in that line, there's our 1 octave shape. And then we move to our lower 1 octave shape. Next, I want to show you something pretty magical that happens when we apply the pentatonic scale to the geometry of the guitar neck. Check this out. Pretty cool, right? So what I did there was find a way to play the pentatonic scale, right, with just 2 fingers across the neck, making it really, really easy to move up and down the neck in a fluid motion. See, just 2 fingers there, our first and our third. I have found there are really 3 ways to do this that are very easy. The first starts on the last note of the pentatonic scale, in this case G, right? Because if we play a minor pentatonic, the last note in that is G. So we're going to start G down here with our first finger and just play 1, 3 going up. The second starts on the 3rd note of the pentatonic scale. So in this case, that's D. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to play that right here on the E string, again using our first and third fingers, and the shape looks like this. The last starts on the 4th note of the pentatonic scale, so in this case that's E. And then again we're going to start on the low E string, and then this one is going to use our first and 4th fingers only, and the pattern looks like this. So I found these patterns are really great for moving up and down the neck. So lastly, to really get the pentatonic scale down across the neck, you should work on different patterns that connect this scale side to side on the guitar neck. And I like to do this by creating 5 different boxes starting on the low E string across the neck. You don't need to master each of these boxes to play great ideas, but it does help to open up the fretboard and give you more ways to connect your concepts. For a complete list of those, make sure to check out my Patreon linked below. So now that we know how to play the scale across the entire neck, let's work on patterns and triads inside the pentatonic scale. This is how you create melodic ideas instead of just simply playing the scale up and down. So for example, in that example, I used one of the most common and useful pentatonic patterns where you skip every other note. Then you combine the up and down motions to make another really common pattern. I find these type of patterns work best when thinking side to side on the guitar neck versus strictly going up and down. So an example of using this could be playing one of our 2-finger scale patterns from before, and then when you're inside one of our boxes, then you can move through these patterns. Here's an example of that using our basic box here. Another great, easy side-to-side pattern is playing up the scale for 3 strings and then moving down 1 string, repeating that pattern. Like that. And it could go backwards too, right? I find that when you combine these patterns together, even just inside a box, it really starts to open up things and create more ideas for you to solo with. And as I talked about earlier, each of these patterns, you want to think, inside our box. So that also means that we can move it to any of the boxes that our pentatonic scale is built off. So instead of playing it all in this box, we might be able to move it down to this box and play this pattern. So next, let's look at what are often called pentatonic triads. These are groups of 3 notes, thus triad, moved through the pentatonic scale. So if we played this A right here on the high E string, and played a chord built off of every other note, we would have this. Now this small shape can be moved through the pentatonic scale, either going up and down the neck, or side to side. These small shapes are incredibly useful for generating ideas and moving around the neck like this. If you want a complete chart of all the pentatonic triads going up and down each string set, then also check out the Patreon linked below. So now we know how to not only play the pentatonic scale around the neck, but also generate ideas using patterns and triads. Let's cover some uses over different chords. So to me, this is where the pentatonic scale really shines and you start to really sound and dig into the things that make the masters sound so great. The first one is playing the pentatonic scale over minor chords. So of course we could just play a minor pentatonic over the chord A minor, and that'll just give us our normal sound, right? But here's where we start to get some color. What happens if we played A minor pentatonic now over the chord D minor? Doing this gives us the beautiful minor 9 and 11 sound. So the rule to doing this is think about playing the minor pentatonic off the 5th of whatever minor chord you're playing. Or how about this? This is playing A minor pentatonic over the chord G minor, which gives us the 13, the 11, and the 9. So to do this, just play the pentatonic scale a whole step up from whatever minor chord you're playing, and you get these beautiful colors. So now over major chords, if you wanted to play your minor pentatonic scale, you could do this. First, you could play it off the 6th of a major chord. So that would be C major in this case, right? Because the 6th of C is A minor. Or we could play it off the 3rd of a major chord. In this case, that would be F, right? I find the one off the 6th gives you the most color with the 9th and the 6th, or the 13th. However, if you wanted the maximum amount of color in your minor pentatonic over the major chord, try playing it off the natural 7th of that chord. So in this case, we would play it over B flat. Check it out. Doing this gives us the 13, the 9, and the sharp 11. So over dominant chords, you have some great options. You could play the minor pentatonic off of the 9th to get a beautiful 9th and 13th sound with the sus4 in there. And you could use that over just a normal G7 too, but just be aware that the sus4 is in there. Or you could play it off the 6th of a dominant chord, and that gives you a more stable sound. Now, if you wanted to get an altered dominant sound with our minor pentatonic, then play it off of the sharp 9 or flat 3rd of a dominant chord. So in this case, for a minor pentatonic, that would be over the chord G flat 7. So to close this lesson, I want to give you a couple examples of how I found to use the pentatonic scales in my lines, combining these different rules. So our first example this is a great line over a 2-5-1 in G. So to start off, we're playing our string grouping pattern over A minor pentatonic over the chord A minor. And then we move to one of our 2-finger patterns over F minor on the D7 chord, giving us the altered sound. To make this easier, I like to think about this as starting from the sharp 5 of dominant chords. So on this low E string, that would be A sharp, right? Then we finish this line with a great trick I have picked up for resolving dominant chords with pentatonic scales. And you do this by simply moving whatever we just played down a half step, which is what we're doing here. We just played F minor pentatonic over the D7. If we move that down a half step, that is an E minor pentatonic, right? Works great over a G major 7. So in our next example, I'm using the pentatonic scale with more bebop style ideas. First starting off with our 2-finger pattern over the 2 chord. Then I link it to a great 5-to-1 idea over D7 from the 3rd. And finally, I finish by playing down F sharp minor pentatonic over the G7 for that sharp 11 sound. If you want more examples on how these concepts are used in the real world like this, then head over to my Patreon where you can find a bonus etude and a bonus lesson showing you more useful ways to apply this scale to a tune. I find that the best ways to practice this scale is to take little bits of the information that I presented today, such as maybe you're just working on the 2-finger pattern, right? And just practice that for maybe a month or so. You don't have to, work on all the different things. Just work on one aspect of it until it feels natural in your playing, and then try to link it to other things like I showed at the end of this lesson. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. And just a reminder, you can pick up every single thing that I went over in written out tabs over on my Patreon, and you'll get a guitar profile PDF, the whole works, along with a bonus etude and lesson, really showing you how to put this together. And speaking of Patreons, thank you to the Patreons that make this channel possible. Without you all, none of this would exist, and I truly appreciate your support. Thank you. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to always keep swinging.